joining us for our first ever annual meeting at the Capital City Museum. I also just want to take a second to acknowledge our board members who are here. As I call your name, please stand up and give a wave or an acknowledgement just so everyone can see your beautiful faces. We're going to start right here. Jimmy Rogers, James Rogers, he's one of our board of directors. And then Freddie Johnson, right next to him right here. And then Bill Crumbo, right here. And then Sheila Mason Burton next to Bill. And then Dealey Dunstall behind Sheila. And Susan Coblin in the back. And then I'm missing a few people. Yeah, Bill May, he is also one of our board members. And we've got some more who will be speaking tonight, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Okay. Without further ado, I'm going to request that Julia please flip the light switch for the main gallery. It's the center switch. Yes, perfect. Sorry, I know it's a little dark, but it's the best way to see the PowerPoint that we have prepared for you all this evening. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up John Boffman, the board's president.
They turned off the lights so I can't read my speech. I'm John Boffman. At the moment, I'm the president of the Capital City Museum Corporation. The meeting today is not typically what we do. We meet once a month. It takes an hour and a half, and there are a lot of mundane things that you would not be interested in. But we're going to skip over those and let Ellie and Beth Shields tell you what we've been doing and what's coming up. The Capital City Museum has a unique connection with the city of Frankfort. The city owns the building and pays the professional staff. So we have a separate corporation that is responsible for what you see here. We raised money and we had good luck right before COVID. A woman named Ann Gibbs in her will left us $285,000. And in Frankfort, Kentucky, as you know, that's a huge sum of money. We had COVID hit, so the museum had to shut down. So we got to renovate and put all these exhibits in. And by good luck, Penny Peever, who is a nationally known museum expert, was available to give us advice. And she has a lot of responsibility for what we have here. This museum was going strong even before it was renovated, thanks to Russ Hatter. It's really, he's the face of the museum to a lot of people, and half the people in Frankfort think he's still the head man over here. And you know, he can take some solace in the fact that it took 1.5 people to replace him, replace his part-time job. But we wouldn't be here without Russ, and we're glad he's still around. We have some distinguished people here that I won't mention, except Lane Wilkerson said that he's going to have to leave early, and he wants you to know that he's not mad if somebody, Steve, talks too long. So that's all I have to say. I'll turn it back over to Ellie, and that's who you want to hear.
So, as John was saying, we're very lucky to have such a strong partnership between the city, who does the employment or the staffing for the museum, and the 501c3, the Museum of the City of Frankfort, Inc. And if you were able to get a copy of our annual report, you'll see a little bit of the breakdown for the financials for 2022, how expenses were categorized, as well as how we figured income. You'll notice that most of our income last year was due to grants that the museum received. I'm now going to step back and let Steve Brooks, the vice president of our board.
Don't worry, she's got me on a timer. I do want to give you a brief history of how this all came about. In 2000, Nikki Hughes and I were walking down the street, and I don't remember the guy's name. He was retiring from the state museum, and we took him to lunch, and he said, it's a shame. He said, every day somebody in Franklin County brings us heirlooms. and we can't take on them because we can't treat Franklin County any different than the other 119 counties. Well, the lights came on. So we purchased a maintenance building across from the YMCA, and we put a museum up there. And Jim Parrish, who was as important as me at getting this thing started, said, "You crazy as hell." We put a museum on the second floor without an elevator, and I said, if it's successful, it'll pay off for us. So, that 2001, I went to see Rodney Ratliff about a building for girls softball was coming back in high school and college, and we said, hey, you know, you got maybe a warehouse that we could use for hitting and batting cages for the high school, softball and baseball. And he said, yes. Got ready to leave, and I said, well, look at this, what Nikki Hughes has proposed. And it was this museum. And he said, well, I have a building, I'll sell you cheap. I said, I got no money, just got a dream. So, now, when I called him, he said, you come see me in the morning, 5 o'clock, by the way. That's the way he operated. So I was out there at 5 o'clock. And he said, sometime today, after I talk to my lawyer and I talk to my real estate guy, I'll call you. Well, I went from Home Street to Juniper Hill, and he called me. And he said, you know, come back and get the keys. And we came down here, and there were 3 beauty shops in here and a consignment shop. And we never thought we'd get the smell out of here. Everything just worked beautiful. And of course, without Russ Hatter, without Nikki Hughes, without Jim Parrish, this would never have happened. So we got to work on it, and things have really fallen into place. And I just want to mention a few people that deserve to be recognized that this museum would not have existed. Of course, Rodney and Lois Ratliff, they gave us the building. We just had to pay for the appraisal, and the building appraised at $438,000. We paid $600 to have it appraised, and that was it. I had to get it done by that was August. We had to get it done by the end of December so you write it off. And you'll never guess what date I got the commission to sign off on it. December 31st, about 4 o'clock. Steve Reeder, he was head of the Kentucky River Authority. That's where we got our grant to build Riverview Park and to build the first museum on Broadway. Hadn't been for him, again, we would not have had a museum. He gave us quite a bit of money. Crit Lou Allen, you all know her standing in the community. Frank Sauer, John Boffman, in the early days, gave us a lot of free legal advice, how to do things, how to do a 501c3 and all that kind of stuff. We owe John a great deal of debt, and thank goodness he has stayed on as a board member. Hank Hancock, when he was in the General Assembly, he's the guy that got with Reeder and got money put into for the River Authority. Nikki Hughes and Russ Hatter, a guy named David Klinkenbeard. Klink, when we first started, he built all the cages and all the building, all the things we had. He did it. We had a workshop in here, and he did that on his own. Martha Moore, Ann Gibbs left us the $285,000. Betty Barr, our board member now, and her husband Don Clyer, they've been very generous. If it hadn't been for their contributions, we would not have a real room. And if that is a world-class real room, people come from all over the world looking at this thing. Of course, Lane Wilkerson, mayor, but he was also our chairman at one time. He was on the board. He's been very supportive. I mentioned Jim Parrish before. Another assistant I had, Jim McCarty, both of them told me I was crazy as hell. But that wasn't the only time they did that. We did several projects that they told me that. Laura Hagg, our city manager, has been very supportive. George Wolf, as you know, you all know who George Wolf is. We did a fundraiser for him. He came back from New York, and it was very successful. And now we are able, through the Franklin Independent School Education Foundation, we give a $500 scholarship away a year in George's name, because the museum let us have that money that we made off of that. Ann French Thomas was the chairman of our board during all this. And I certainly can't leave out Dr. Ellie, what she has brought to the table. She's terrific. And like I say, I've been here since day one, so I know how good she is. And also Beth Shields, how lucky we were to find her. Trying to replace Russ Hatter, you kidding me? But Russ will tell you that we did as good as we could possibly do, and I appreciate that very, very much. Christian Wilkins is the maintenance guy downtown. He and Sean Pickens, our parks director, have been very supportive, and anytime we need anything, they work for us. Charlie Jones was another attorney that helped us in the early days, and I want to mention Penny Peeler again. Penny did a lot for us, got the board refocused on what we were doing, but it has been a real community effort, and we are just, you know, I built a lot of parks. I got to do a lot of good stuff in my career, and Jim Parrish was as important as I was in doing that. I want to give him credit. But I will tell you that I'm as proud of this as anything, because this is forever. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of history of where we are. Thank you. Oh yeah. Well, I'm old. You know. And I do want to mention Martha Moore. You all know Martha. She passed away a few months ago. She was very important in our doing this. The reason I missed her, I put her at the bottom of the list and I had her at the top, but anyway. When Nikki came to me and said, hey, you know, the fountain on the Capitol lawn hadn't been running 35 or 40 years. We called Martha Moore, met with her. Within a month, she had the money to repair that. So that was one of the things she did. But she was very instrumental in helping with the museum, and she was on the board until she passed away. So we do owe Martha a great deal of debt as well. Thank you.
Okay, so to reiterate, we have so many people we want to thank and so many community members we appreciate getting the opportunity to work with, and it fills my heart with so much joy to look out and see all these really wonderful and special people who have helped us have such a successful 2022, and I'm going to share a little bit of what's been going on with you all. So 2022 was a great year. We really got to expand some of the programming that we began to offer, and we had a really wonderful staff. So we've actually had a few staff changes since this list was published, but these are some of the wonderful people who worked with us in the last year. Please note that anyone with seasonal staff after their name, we actually hired them specifically to work at Fort Hill during the summer season. So they were our tour guides up at Fort Hill that summer. This is what our visitorship looked like in 2022. You can see that it was a really wonderful and impressive increase. Note that in 2021, we actually reopened in July, so that's why the numbers were so low for the first half of that year. We were still closed working on the renovation, but we are just absolutely over the moon with visitorship. When I started, I was told that if we get even one visitor in January, we are doing good. So imagine my joy and surprise when we had over several hundred. And in total, our visitorship for just the museum, not Fort Hill, was 5,000 people for 2022, which was astonishing. We also began a really solid effort to up our social media game, and we participated in just a few different social media events, for lack of a better word. This is a sample from Archives #party, which if you're unfamiliar with this, it is only something I'm familiar with because of Beth Shields, our city historian, but it's so much fun to participate in. Essentially, archives across the nation are asked to share gems from their archives they might not otherwise get to share with the public. So we participated in many, not every month that it's held for 2022. But we also were able to increase our Facebook audience overall. So our Facebook page reach was about 52,000 folks, and we only spent about $100 on advertising last year. So we were really happy with how far that reach was. And we actually started our Instagram in 2021. So to get to reach that many people in the broader community was really exciting. This is a breakdown of our Facebook page likes and our Instagram followers. Again, we just started our Instagram and it's a really slow audience to build, so we're very happy with the increase that we've had. We also had an increase in Facebook followers. I believe we gained close to 700 last year, which is great. We've had our Facebook since 2010, so to have that much of an increase in 1 year is really, really exciting. I get to share like one of my favorite projects that we worked on. I know many of you all in this room have heard me talk about Kentucky Deceased, and if you haven't, it is this really cool podcast that we started in 2021, and the 2021 season was all about paranormal and supernatural phenomenon in Frankfort, and we were able to have a wide range of episodes, anywhere from a one-to-one rebroadcast of the War of the Worlds original broadcast, but set in central Kentucky, which was donated to us by Joe Carter, who's actually here tonight, so thank you, Joe, as well as really awesome stories from the Frankfort Cemetery, from Patty Peevler, who is somewhere. I know she's here. Oh, she's over there. So that season was really wonderful and really difficult to top. But in 2022, we released season 2, and this is a list of the episodes, and we actually covered murders that occurred in Frankfort and Franklin County, including getting to talk to some people who were very closely involved with the murder relating to Joe Pagato, which is the episode, "If you want to commit a murder, Frankfort's the place to do it," which is a literal quote from a newspaper article published during the time of Pagato's wife's murder. So it was really exciting to work on this podcast, and we actually still get about 15 to 20 downloads per day for these episodes. So that's really exciting. When we released the Weeping Widow Stony Creek, we topped about 300 to 400 downloads in the first week alone. So it was really cool to watch that audience grow, and we have people as far away as Russia and England regularly download our episodes. These are just some of the events we participated in 2022. Women's Equality Day, Gathering of the Authors at Paul Sawyer Public Library, Bourbon on the Banks, which was the first time we had participated in that, Frankfort Pride, which we were kind of adjacent to. We had broader plans for doing a larger collecting event at Pride, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. We hope to be back this year to do more targeted museum collecting for our archives. So if you've got anything, please let us know. We also participated in the Christmas parade with Parks, which was really fun to get to do. I learned I'm horrible at throwing candy. It's just not a skill I have, and that's okay. We also participated in both Historic Halloween as well as the Downtown Trick or Treat, and we did a photo scanning event at the Women's Shelter opening. Here's some more. We participated in Earth Day, again with Parks, which was so much fun, as well as Reforest Frankfort, also with Parks, also a blast. We were at the Old Real Collectors Association annual meeting. We were even at CryptidCon in Lexington, which I know seems weird, but when the director of the museum studies cryptozoology for her PhD, you kind of, are adjacent, but we were able to promote the museum and bring a lot of people into the museum from that event, so that was really cool. We were also at Unity in the Community. We helped with 4 Juneteenth celebration as well as the 4 essay contest, the History Day for the state, the summer concert series. Betty and Dawn and I were actually there in August promoting the release of the book Crafting and Casting, as well as the ORCA annual meeting, which was held in Frankfort. And we had the opportunity to be a location for some of the day camps at the Kentucky History Center to come visit, as well as I was invited there to be there for an afternoon. So it was so much fun. But that's not all. I was also a moderately consistent around 10 guests. I don't know how they didn't get sick of me, but I always have so much fun when I get to be on air with them. I even got to be a co-host on 3 episodes last year, which was awesome. I did a few more guest lectures in my position at the museum, at the University of Kentucky, at Western Kentucky, at the Optimist Club, the Women's Club, Leadership Frankfort Challenge Day host, and I'm in Leadership Frankfort, which is great. We also hosted an Empower Frankfort meeting, and we got to be on ABC 36 2 days in a row last year, one for Derby and one for the opening of our bourbon exhibit. So we had a lot going on. In addition, the museum hosted, I promise I'm almost done, but 2022 was really exciting. We also hosted Valentine's Day decorating, bob and lace workshop, egg painting, which we're doing again, and we're about to start doing on March 1st. It's a really consistent and amazing activity, so if you know anyone who likes to paint wooden eggs, we will have those available starting March 1st. We did a bookmaking workshop, which was originally slated for 2 weeks and expanded over to 3, but we had a great time. Jean Birch was a lovely participant of that event, so thank you very much, sir. We also participated in the American Battlefield Trust Cleanup Day up at Fort Hill. We participated in History Happy Hour, which is on a brief hiatus but is coming back. We did an At the Bend of the River book release party with our friends from Mortimer Bibbs, and we also helped participate with the African American Context Report that was heralded and shepherded by Vicki Bierenberg with the city. So we had so many great partners and were able to participate in so many fantastic events. We also were on planning committees for a few things: Candlelight, Downtown Derby, Haunting on the Hill, Bounce for the Roses, Battlefield Cleanup Day, and Frankfurt Heritage Week. If you are unfamiliar with Bounce for the Roses, let me tell you, it was a blast. It involves giant inflatable adult-sized horses that adults bounce and race on. If this sounds enticing to you and you missed it last year, do not fret. It is coming back in 2023 as part of the Frankfurt Triple Crown. And let me tell you, the third part of the Triple Crown is a bourbon ball eating contest. That sounds enticing. See me afterwards. Also, if you have not heard of Haunting on the Hill, this was an absolutely astonishingly fun event that I could not have done or had even seen to fruition without Alex Cunningham in the back there. She was my wonderful co-planner, and we had such a good time working out the logistics. And to toot our own horns, it was, to quote some, not me, one of the most well-attended events in Frankfurt last year. We know we had close to 900 people in attendance, if not more. So it was awesome, and we were able to bring in over 26 different community organizations to help run the trick-or-treat trail, as well as some other really exciting things like free hot chocolate. We had an alcohol and food area, we had pumpkin painting, we had face painting, and we had scary stories in the Sullivan House on Fort Hill. So that was a really fun project to be involved in. Now I'm going to step aside and let our city historian, Beth Shields, come up and share a report of her year.
I'm going to pull this microphone way down. It's all right. We talked about it ahead of time, so it's just fine. It is great to see so many familiar faces, and for those of you that I haven't met yet, hopefully we can talk after this. I'm Beth Shields, and I have the privilege of being the city historian. So I want to thank everyone for being so welcoming to me as I not replace Russ Hatter, follow after Russ Hatter. So, and especially to Russ for helping me with that transition. So Ellie has talked a lot about the events and all the activities we've done, and you can see just how active and how much energy Ellie has. So I'm gonna turn it and talk a little bit about the collections, which is near and dear to my heart. So the museum collection really documents the history of Frankfurt and Franklin County, and those items in the collection really come from you out in the community, and it's really special and important for us to be able to share those back, whether it's displaying that in the museum or having folks come in and do research. So what is in the collection and what does it do? Many of you probably know because you've donated, you've done research, or you've been in, but for those of you who do not, I'd like to just give you a little overview. So we're documenting people and families and stories, places. This is just homes, streets, neighborhoods, topics, events, organization, politics, farming, the Kentucky River, anything related to Frankfurt and Franklin County. We are interested in collecting so that we can preserve and share those stories. So what does that mean when you come in here? Well, again, you'll see the items on the walls and in the exhibits, but we do have a lot more objects that are in storage that will rotate in for maybe special exhibits or special events that we'll be able to pull out. But we also have photographs, manuscripts, vertical files, our wonderful library. If you haven't been to the second floor to see the Russ Hatter Library, most of the books in that room have been dedicated or donated to us by Russ Hatter. And you'll see in the front of many of them a notation from Russ on when he read the book. There's a lot of notes in the margins. You can see comments from Russ. So he's an avid reader, and we're so grateful that he donated his collection of books to us. Let's see, we also have audio visual, so we have oral histories, some videos and recordings in the collection, and vertical files. So those are in separate categories. We have vertical files related to streets, nearly 1,000 files where it might be for a neighborhood or a street or a particular house. So if you're interested in learning about your neighborhood, about your home, you can come in and see if we have a file and take a look. And it really just depends on the file, how much information or what's in there. So there may be old photographs, there could be copies of deeds, historical inventory files. It really just depends on the site.
Oh, it's okay. Just keep going.
Subject files, again, events, parades, Christmas, Easter holidays, churches, hospitals, the fire department, the police department, organizations, the Rotary Club, you name it, we have a file for it. And those are, again, collected over the years and really newspaper clippings, photographs, and other items that have been donated. We have family and biographical files, over 1,500 files. So if you're interested in doing research on your family or a particular person who lived in this community, there's a good chance that you'll be able to come in and see a file for that. We also have a dedicated section for Black history that contains over 400 files that document families, events, Kentucky State University, and anything related to the African American community here in Frankfort. So I would like to encourage all of you to come and visit us and see the collection. My position's part-time. I'm here in the mornings, but I'm also available by appointment in the afternoons. We'd love to have you come in and do some research. For folks who can't visit us, we're happy to do some research, scan things, email them to you, but you're also always welcome to come in and view those items yourself. Just give us a call. And as Ellie talked about with Pride, we are actively collecting for the collections. So if you have items from your family, from you, from anybody in the community that you think would find a home here, we encourage you to contact us. You know, this is a place that we can assure you that will be a good steward of the collections, preserve the collections, and provide access. So you and future generations can continue to view, use, and cherish those items. So please come see us. Always happy to have researchers. There is quite a treasure trove of materials here, and one of the things this year that I'm really working on is making those more accessible, a lot more guides and inventories to the collection so that folks can have a better understanding of what is in all of our materials.
I cannot overstate how much of a resource Beth's knowledge and enthusiasm for collections and archives and research. I mean, you cannot find someone who is more capable at finding anything. So if you are sitting there thinking, I mean, I wonder about this house or this property, as Beth said, she is absolutely phenomenal at connecting you with a resource that might be able to help you. So please come visit us. We really do love having researchers here. And when you research here, you get the whole boardroom to yourself to look through the file. How fun and delightful. So right now I'm going to provide a little bit of updates regarding some exhibits that we've been talking about for a while, some that are just now coming to the forefront, and some that we're in the process of working on. The first, and probably most familiar to a lot of you all, is Alleluia Anyhow, which is an exhibit that's been in process since before I started about Black life in Frankfort in the mid-1950, 1940, 1960 range. And I just want to let everyone know that this exhibit is still in process. It's still coming together. We are in the label and text writing stage, so it's moving forward. And we're very hopeful, if not positive, that we will have a solid opening date later this year. So please sit tight and just promise it will be there. It is coming. Another exciting exhibit that we've been working on is our waterways exhibit. So for those of you who are familiar with the museum, we have previously had a river exhibit, which has highlighted the Kentucky River and the commerce influence in Frankfort and Franklin County. But we've decided to expand the scope of this exhibit to include not only the Kentucky River, but also Elkhorn Creek and Benson Creek and all of those other waterways and tributaries that are so important and essential to life in Frankfort and Franklin County. We're really trying to expand our scope as much as we can to tell the broadest story of Frankfort and Franklin County that we can. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm partially obsessed with the fact that the mussel conservation laboratory for the United States is in Frankfort. Isn't that wild? The Mussel Conservation Laboratory. That's so cool. It blows my mind. The gentleman who runs it has saved over 16 species of mussels from extinction. Isn't that crazy? And that's here in our community right now. So getting to highlight that type of story is so meaningful to me as a folklorist, as well as a museum curator, and getting to work with Rebecca Tippett, who is hiding somewhere over there she is also an absolute joy and wonder. So we are in the label making / arranging stage for this exhibit. So we are actually really hopeful that we will have a firm release date in either late April or early May. So get really excited because we are really excited. Also, we are on the hunt for a canoe. So if you have a canoe that you would be interested in donating, please talk to me because we want a canoe. Turning now to donations that have entered into the museum, we are very, very lucky to have such a robust donation and temporary custody platform. In 2022, we accepted 408 artifacts from 54 different donors into our collection. That does not include every artifact that was left at the museum that we maybe didn't accession for any given reason. That could be due to condition, due to numerous copies already in our collection, or due to scope. So maybe the artifact that someone left with us didn't quite fit our collection policy, which was another thing that we instituted in 2022 that was so exciting to get to work on because our museum historically did not have a collection policy or maintenance policy. So now we have worked on having a very firm collection policy to help identify our scope and who we're able to serve, which is awesome. So great. And a huge thank you to Beth Shields once again for really helping us work through critically thinking about what we needed to do. Photographed here is our collections manager, Rebecca Tippett, who again is hiding back there, Becky Tippett. And what she's working on is another really fun thing that we did this year, which was a new accessions display case. So we have 2 of these upstairs where we're getting to highlight really exciting new accessions to the museum. And we do promote those on Facebook when we have new artifacts that are out. So please keep an eye out there to see cool things that are coming in. And if you're on our email newsletter, you will be seeing those too. I'm going to talk about something that is very exciting but was very stressful while it was happening. So as I said, the museum historically did not have a collection policy. And unfortunately for us, that meant that we have a lot of things in our collection that don't fit Frankfort or Franklin County or are maybe just erroneous to what we're trying to do. And that's great, that's fine. However, we were out of space. We had nowhere to store our artifacts, and the location that we had was a multi-use area that was not well suited to museum storage. It is pictured on the left. So what the museum did was we applied for what's called a collection assessment program, or a CAP, and we had a professional conservator and a professional architectural historian come to the museum and tour, at the time, our 3 separate storage facilities. It was the longest 48 hours that anyone could imagine, because in all of that we were also talking about, well, we would really love to consolidate all our storage to one location and maybe update our storage, maybe get a new facility. How cool and exciting would that be? And when the report came out in August, staff was not surprised that the #1 recommendation was to find a new storage facility. So pictured here is John Pickens, who is Parks Director, and myself with our lovely Board of Commissioners giving a presentation about why we needed a new storage facility. And excitingly for us, it was approved. This building has been an absolute godsend. We are so lucky to have found somewhere that is more appropriate to store our really wonderful and phenomenal collection. And we are not all moved yet, unfortunately, for some of us, but it's been a long process that has already involved a week of closing the museum in order to move most of our artifacts out of the museum that were in storage and not on display, as well as many of the materials from Broadway, and then an additional 3 moving days for more materials at Broadway and more materials at Bridge Street. So it was a lot of coordination, but as you can see here, we filled up this really lovely and empty space very quickly. And we're in the process now of seeking some more grants in order to help facilitate additional storage options for us, like getting new shelving or getting new storage cabinets in order to more appropriately store our artifacts. Well, in this process, we decided that we needed a name because Wilkinson Street Storage was not the most exciting. So staff put our heads together and we decided to honor two individuals who have been so gracious to the museum, Betty Barr and Don Clyer. So we named our storage facility after them. But our work does not stop here. So we have many other things that were identified in this assessment program for us to continue to work on, including creating a dedicated collection processing space, developing an active collections housekeeping plan, rehousing fragile or friable collections material, creating an emergency response protocol, securing cold storage for necessary collections, acquiring additional utility tables, address and repair ongoing building concerns, reorganize and consolidate workspaces, preserve and conserve damaged collection items. I am so tired just going through that list. However, it's so necessary to continue to preserve and care for the wonderful donations that our community has been so generous to give to us. So all of this to say, if you're interested in helping with collections in any aspect, even if it's not financially, if you're interested in helping to secure or move any of our collection items, we would love to have your help. We are starting to look towards having a volunteer program. We're actually in the process right now of hiring a volunteer and education coordinator. So if you know anyone or you might be interested, please come talk to me because it would be great to get more people in the museum to help us out with some of the things that we're doing. Now I'm going to turn this over to Betty Barr, who is the board secretary.
Well, Ellie has introduced the board, but every February, per our bylaws, we are to re-elect officers. According to our bylaws, each officer serves a 3-year term indefinitely, which is why people like Mary Ann Bogart, who just stepped off our board, who served on the board from the very beginning. As you can see, with Ellie's talk and Beth and what Steve has given us, nobody wants to get off this board. It's wonderful. It's so much fun. We're all friends. Everyone has the museum's interest at heart, and it's hard to get rid of people. But per our bylaws in February, we re-elected John Boffman as president, Steve Brooks as vice president, I'm secretary, Susan Coblin as treasurer. So thank you for our officers. And Steve mentioned other board members that we have had in the past, but there are 3 people he did not. Just recently, we had 3 people step off the board. Mary Ann Bogart, who served from the beginning, Jim Klaus, and Sherry Thompson. And there's one more person Ellie's already mentioned, but I have to say thank you to Sean Pickens, who comes to every one of our board meetings and is very supportive of us and the things that we want to do.
Sorry, I'm very tall. It's mostly a curse, but sometimes it's a gift. Okay, so now we are on to the upcoming portion of our evening where we talk about some of the things that we have going on or coming down the pipeline, as it were. So here is some of our upcoming events. This is not a complete list. We actually have a multi-page calendar with everything we're planning on participating in and being involved with, and that continues to grow as we continue to expand our community engagement, which, in case you can't tell, is something we really love doing. But some of the things that we have coming up that I want to highlight is the egg painting once again, but something I'm so over the moon excited about on March 5th, Joanna Hay is right here, so it makes me even more excited, is a March on Frankfurt program. So for those of you who have seen our wonderful exhibit at the end of the hallway, which if you've not, please go take a look. Joanna has been working with the city as well as the National Park Service in order to produce a documentary sharing the oral history of folks who helped plan the march. And it is fabulous because that's not all they've done. They've also created virtual field trips and maps of the march, as well as lesson plans for educators across the state, and all of that's published on a website as well as through the PBS hosting.
PBS Learning Media.
PBS Learning Media. Thank you, Joanna. Very glad she's here. So the march will be, I guess, not recreated, but we'll go on a version of the march, right?
And
on
this
the fifth?
year, it's at Paul Sawyer Public Library presenting the project, the results of the completion of the project and the videos with the scholar Dr. Lee Dada Grimes in attendance as well. And Focus on Race Relations is sponsoring that event with, and of course, inviting our partners, Capital City Museum, at the Paul Sawyer Public Library on March the 5th, which is the 59th anniversary of the March on Frankfurt, because next year is the big one, the 60th anniversary.
Thank you very much, Joanna. No, that was perfect. That was exactly what I needed. Thank you. We are really excited about that event, and we will 100% be there because this project is phenomenal. It's so great and wonderful. That we will also be participating in the Jazz Day Block Party on April 21st, which we're really stoked about that too, and getting to share the importance and meaning of jazz, not only in our community, but across our state. And we're partnering with Keith McCutcheon and Natalie Wilkerson's back there. Yay, hi! As well as our friends at the History Center. So we are really excited about that. And of course, the Downtown Derby celebration in May, as well as Frankfurt Heritage Week. And the events go on. And Haunting on the Hill is October 21st, so put that on your calendars. It will be a blast. Another really cool thing that we have just released is a new podcast that's been written, researched, and narrated by Patty Norris Peebler, who wrote and helped to publish really and typeset and do everything for the book At the Bend of the River, which we released last year and has been wonderfully successful. So her podcast, Reflections, the first episode is out now with the next episode coming out this Thursday, are bite-sized pieces of Frankfurt's history told in a story format. So Patty has done a really lovely job sharing stories that are special to the museum and to the history of our community in a really accessible way. So the longest episode right now is about 10 minutes long. So if you're someone who doesn't get into podcasts because the length can be intimidating, this is a great way to engage with the story of Frankfurt. In addition, for each episode on our website, you can read a transcript of the podcast if you don't want to listen to it. So we're really excited about that. So thank you very much to Patty for putting that together and being wonderful. And then, okay, this is a little pet project that I've been kind of obsessed with recently. We just released an interactive timeline for the Canada family. And this is a project that both Beth and myself have been working on, and Beth has really been helping me do research for this and doing research just generally for this, so thank you, thank you, thank you. But this podcast really began with a mystery. So in 2014, the museum was gifted a collection of documents and photographs, and at the time they were from an abandoned house, and the photos were of an unidentified Black family, clearly taken at the turn of the century. And so, actually prior to the donation in 2009, Russ Hatter and Winona Fletcher had done some research into this family and the home that they lived in. Well, Beth and I came along and we compiled their research, we compiled the donation, we compiled information about the donation and additional research, and we created a around 80 entry interactive timeline of this family at the turn of the century. So it's available on our website and through Facebook, but it's a really exciting thing for us to work on because this timeline breaks down each family member's life, where they were living, what they were doing, who we think are in the photographs based on the time frame that we can identify, or people who have been named in the photographs. We also break it down by census as well as by city directory, and we really take you through the lives of this family, this one family who lived in South Frankfurt. So it's a really, really exciting project. We haven't really done anything like this before, and we're excited to get to bring it and share it with all of you. Before we move on to discussions and comments, I failed to make a slide for this, I apologize, but A project that we're also in the process of working on, another partnership that we're hoping to continue to grow, is a exhibit in our Russ Hatter Library upstairs with the Stewart Home and School, where we get to showcase some of their students' artwork as well as the history of the school in our community. So that's in process now, and we're hoping for that to be ready in April. As we continue to work on the planning and installation phase, we will be sending out updates. So once again, if you're interested in attending an opening event or learning more about any of our upcoming exhibits, please make sure that we get your email address or your mailing address, and we would be happy to loop you in on that, because we really love the community and we love having you all here. And I cannot express how much it warms my heart to see everyone this evening. So if Julia or Karen don't mind to hit the lights, we'll move on to discussion and comments. So if anyone, woo! I hope everyone's awake now. Thank you. These lights do not have a dimmer. I seriously apologize. Otherwise, that would have been a little easy. Yeah, we'll work on that. The board has a new project. So if anyone has discussions or comments, yes.
I have two questions. Does the Capital City Museum, I'm a person who lives in a rural area outside of Franklin. Does it include the rural areas as part of their mission?
I feel like you were a plant in the audience, actually. So the question was about the scope of the mission and if we include rural audiences. So another project that, we have a lot going on, folks. So another project that we are currently in the weeds with right now is that we've actually hired a contractor who, I won't name any names, but his name might be Russ Hatter, to go through the museum's collection in totality. So all of our archives as well as all of our artifacts, and figure out explicitly what we already have regarding the county. So the more rural areas surrounding the city itself. Once that part of the project's completed, Russ will then be completing a windshield survey where he will drive around the county through every road and identify places or potential areas that are gaps in our collection, things that we don't have anything for. And then down the line, the museum will actively work to collect regarding those materials. Right now, we really do have a robust collection as it pertains to the county, but it hasn't always been necessarily well categorized or set apart in a research guide, so that's really what Russ is focusing on creating. So short answer, yes. Long answer, we're in a process of engaging and building that's part of our collection. Thank you, that was a great question. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Fire Marshal Marshall.
So, I am Marshall Marshall, and when everybody looked at me, I'm not here to count capacity. Although we were right at capacity, and then Mayor Wilkinson walked in. There was one over, and I thought about asking him to leave, but he got lost. No, so I'm here as a fan. I love the museum. I love coming here. I bring our recruits. Every recruit class walk in here, talk about fire safety. They get distracted looking at the exhibits. But I would love to, I know there used to be an exhibit a long time ago. The only thing here is the pump air ladder that's fire related. But I would love to work again with the museum and get a fire related exhibit in place. We have our own kind of historian in the fire department. We have a lot of material. We would love to get more material and kind of get a short-term exhibit that's here for a while at some point in time, and then maybe move it. Bridge Street's going to be renovated. It could be at Bridge Street, and then maybe go over to the new station at some point in time. I would love to get some interest from you all and work in that, on that relationship.
Well, thank you, Fire Marshal Marshall. I love the very strong relationship that we already have, and I really appreciate that you do bring all the recruits here. Thank you. It's always a little nerve-wracking when they come here, though, because I'm like, all right, Elena, hide every outlet that we have. Can we just hide the outlets? Can we take them off the wall? Surge protectors? Like, what can we do here? Is our breaker box, like, are we good? Do we need to move something? Space is limited, okay? Please don't judge us. Anyway. I'm biased because, as many people in the room know, and I know Fire Marshal Marshall knows, I come from a family of firefighters. My father, who is here actually, he's a retired firefighter, so I know his ears are perking up right now because we almost have a firefighting museum. Guys, I'm not kidding. This man, my father, knows every new fire truck in production. And one time we were in California, and it was 4th of July, and he was so excited for the parade because he was like, yeah, they just got a new fire truck here. My brother and I were like, how do you even know that? Anyway, so I would be very interested in continuing to grow this partnership even more. And I think that there is a strong community interest in learning more about the fire department and its history here in not only Frankfort, but really the state, because the state itself does have a very important fire history. So I'm all in, and I'm sure we can definitely continue to work on exactly what that would look like. Yes, Bill Crumbo.
Rich knows your dad, so we can say.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Dad, can you step out here? Sorry. He is hiding. He's probably reading an exhibit label. Yeah, he is.
Your daughter was.
Yeah, probably. Life stuff.
He's running up the stairs.
Yeah, probably. I'm going to continue to talk about him. So my dad's an insane person. After he left... If you all want to hear absolutely wild stories about fire safety and fire prevention, I highly recommend talking to my father. One of the first stories he told my husband, who's also back there, was about how, oh, that's way too gruesome to share publicly. It involved loss of life and like maybe removing someone's foot in the field. I mean, it was a really crazy story. Firefighters have seen a lot. So thank you, Dad, and thank you for being here. Sorry, I just shared that story publicly. Anyway. Thank you, Fire Marshal Marshall.
We have a phone call every morning.
Oh, good. Good. Hopefully my dad's bribing you to like not find fault in the museum anywhere. So. Any other questions, comments?
Nice job.
Well, thank you all so much. Very quickly, oh, yes, Sean Pickens, I have to defer to him.
Yeah, just real quick, before we hired Ellie, we were in a transition for a little while, and so we had to bring somebody in to keep the boat going until we finally fired. So we finally found the right person for this job. But in the transition, we had this young she came in and worked for a ginormous salary.
Oh, yes.
And yes. She steered the ship and helped us get through the transition between our previous manager of the museum and Ellie. So thank you, Kelly.
Having had that experience, I would just like to say that it is absolutely amazing to walk in here and feel the energy that, you know, not only the board and Penny and we all brought all the staff, but Ellie, hands down, was such the right person to walk in here and stir it up and take it to the next level. And she's doing it, and she's a delight. We're awfully lucky to have you in this community. So.
Lucky to know all of you, but in all seriousness, Sean beat me to the punch. I was about to say, Kelly Everman, without her and her leadership and guidance when I took this position, I would not know half of you, or even many of you. So Kelly made me feel comfortable and at home, and she's just a phenomenal person to work with, and I hope everyone in this room gets the opportunity to do so at some point. Becky, yeah?
Yes, I was going to say, someone who wasn't mentioned that I think should be is that Ellie wasn't here during our renovation, but Kelly was. And Penny Peeler, you know, was a huge help to everyone, but another person was Bill Crumbo.
Yes.
Who spent hundreds of hours here at this time, free of any sort of charge, because he had a contracting background, and he really helped us get through the construction and the things that we needed to do correctly.
So as promised, we are going to begin a migration over to Capitol Cellars for a happy hour, and I hope many of you will join us. But prior to your egress from this building, I do want to encourage everybody to give a free spin to our prize wheel. Elena Andrews back there, she will be manning this wheel. Again, you don't have to pay anything. Just spin the wheel. Get a sticker, get a mug, get a matchbook, get a really nice pen. It's really great. So please do participate in that. And staff will be here to answer any questions. We all have our name badges on, and the board is all marked with badges too. Anyway, I will see you all at Capitol Cellars. Thank you so much for being here.